You ever meet someone and feel like something's just off? Like within seconds of talking to them, your gut is screaming, but your brain is still trying to be polite. That's your inner wisdom trying to warn you, and you need to start listening to it, especially when it comes to spotting a narcissist. Because here's the truth, narcissists aren't just confident people, they're not just loud or charming, they're calculated, they're draining, and they show their true colors faster than you think if you know what to look for. The first thing, watch how they talk about other people. I'm telling you, this is your 10-second red flag test. Narcissists can't stop themselves from making everything about them. Ask them a simple question, like how their day went, and suddenly it's a monologue about how brilliant they are, how everyone else is either jealous or incompetent, and somehow every good thing that happened was thanks to them. They don't talk with you, they talk at you. It's a performance. There's no genuine exchange, no interest in you. That's the first clue. Then pay attention to how they treat people they think are beneath them. The waiter, the receptionist, the Uber driver. If they're dismissive, rude, condescending, run. Because narcissists perform kindness only when there's a benefit to them. Empathy isn't in their emotional vocabulary. Respect is conditional. Their world revolves around status, control, and image. And if you're not useful to them, you become invisible or worse, a target. And here's another fast sign. They don't take responsibility. Ever. You bring up something that hurt you, and suddenly you're the problem. They flip the script, gaslight you, twist your words until you start questioning your own memory. That's not a misunderstanding. That's manipulation. Narcissists will never say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." Instead, they'll say things like, "You're too sensitive," or "You misunderstood me," or "That never happened." All tactics to avoid accountability and keep the power dynamic tilted in their favor. Now, let's talk about love bombing, because this one is tricky. In the beginning, they come on strong, flattery, attention, gifts, constant communication. It feels intoxicating. You think you've found your soulmate, but that's not love, that's bait. It's a trap disguised as romance. The second you start feeling safe, they pull the rug out. They create chaos to keep you chasing the high of that initial validation. And if you don't catch on, you get stuck in a cycle of confusion and self-doubt. But here's the most important part: your energy doesn't lie. If someone makes you feel small, drained, anxious, or like you have to work harder just to keep the peace, you're not overthinking it. You're experiencing emotional warfare. The goal of a narcissist is control. And if you feel like you're constantly second-guessing yourself around someone, that's not love. That's psychological erosion. So next time you meet someone, don't ignore the tension in your gut. Don't excuse the little jabs, the fake compliments, the arrogant tone. You can spot a narcissist in 10 seconds if you stop ignoring what you already know. Trust yourself, speak up, walk away when your peace is at stake. Because life is too short to keep handing your energy to people who only want to drain it. Let me be brutally honest with you. You want to know how to spot a narcissist in under 10 seconds? Listen to how they talk about other people. I'm serious. You don't need a psychology degree. You don't need a therapist in the room. Just shut up and listen, because a narcissist can't help themselves. Their ego is always doing the talking, even when they think they're charming you. Here's the thing. The words someone chooses when describing others are like a mirror. They reflect exactly how that person sees the world. And narcissists, they project constantly. They'll talk about someone's outfit, their job, their body, their choices, and it's never coming from a place of genuine curiosity or compassion. It's comparison. It's condescension. It's control. You know what I'm talking about. You meet someone, and within the first few minutes, they're already throwing subtle digs at a friend or saying things like, I wouldn't do that, but she's always been that way. Or, hey, thinks he's smart, but he's really just lucky. You hear those comments, and your brain might even try to justify them. You think, maybe they're just being honest, or that was weird, but maybe they're joking. No, stop it. That's not honesty, and that's not humor. That's a red flag waving right in front of your face. People who are grounded, who are secure in themselves, who aren't driven by ego, they don't need to step on someone else to feel taller. They lift others up. They show grace when someone makes a mistake. They express empathy when someone's struggling. But a narcissist, they can't do that, because to them, every conversation is a competition. Every person is either beneath them or a threat. There's no in between. So here's your job of become an observer. The next time you're in a room with someone new, instead of being impressed by their confidence, charisma, or charm, listen deeper. What are they saying about the people who aren't in the room? Are they quick to criticize? Are they always the hero in every story and everyone else is the villain or the idiot? Are they dismissive of other people's success or overly focused on their own? That's how you spot a narcissist, not by how they treat you when they're trying to win you over, but by how they talk about the people they don't need anything from. And here's where most of us go wrong. We ignore those signs. We make excuses. We confuse charm with character. But the truth is, the way someone talks about others is the way they'll eventually talk about you, especially once you no longer serve their ego. So start paying attention. Let their words be your warning, because the truth, you don't have to wait for the chaos to hit. You don't need a relationship to fall apart or your self-esteem to be shattered. You just need to listen, because narcissists will always tell on themselves. You just have to be brave enough to hear it. If you want to spot a narcissist in under 10 seconds, pay close attention to how they respond when the spotlight isn't on them. This is huge. It's one of the fastest ways to cut through the surface, level charm, and get right to the truth. Narcissists need attention like they need oxygen. If the room isn't revolving around them, if the praise isn't being directed toward them, if someone else is getting celebrated or admired, they can't stand it. They'll shift, they'll squirm, they'll interrupt, and more often than not, they'll find a way to bring the focus right back to themselves. Let's say you're at a dinner and someone else is being congratulated on a promotion. Watch closely. A secure person, someone grounded in who they are, is going to smile, lean in, say, "That's amazing, I'm so happy for you," and actually mean it. They'll ask questions. They'll celebrate with you. But a narcissist, oh no. A narcissist will either minimize the accomplishment, try to top it with one of their own, or act completely disinterested. Their energy shifts because deep down, someone else shining makes them feel like they're being dimmed. And that's the core of narcissism. It's scarcity mindset in action. They think, if you're getting attention, then I must be losing some. So what do? They grab it back fast. You'll see it in their body language too. They'll check their phone, change the subject, interrupt the conversation with a, "Well, when I did something similar," statement. Or they'll throw a passive-aggressive compliment disguised as support. You know, the ones, "Wow, I didn't know your company gives promotions for that kind of thing." That's cute. That's not support. That's sabotage. And here's where it gets even more toxic. A narcissist will sometimes fake support in public because they know how to play the long game. They'll clap and smile and say all the right things when there's a crowd watching, but behind closed doors, completely different story. Suddenly they're cold, dismissive. They downplay your success or make you feel guilty for having a moment of joy. Why? Because your success threatens their illusion of superiority, and they can't tolerate that. People like this don't just want to be celebrated. They need to be the one being celebrated every single time. So if you want to know who someone really is, take them out of the spotlight and put someone else in it. Then watch. If they shrink back gracefully and shine the light brighter on others, that's someone with confidence and character. If they can't handle it, if they start pulling attention back to themselves like it's a lifeline, if they shift the energy in the room just to get it, you're dealing with a narcissist. And here's the tough part, they're often very good at hiding it. At first, they're charming. They're funny. They make you feel seen and heard. But don't be fooled, all of that is performance until they feel secure in their control over you. Once they do, their true nature leaks out in moments like this, when they're not the center of the universe. That's when their mask slips. So next time you're trying to figure out who someone really is, take a step back, give someone else the stage, and just watch. The way they respond will tell you everything you need to know. If you want to spot a narcissist in 10 seconds, pay very close attention to how they handle criticism, because that's where the mask falls off. Most narcissists are masters of image. They thrive on being admired, validated, and seen as superior. But introduce even the tiniest bit of feedback that challenges their perfection, boom, you'll see a complete shift. Their whole demeanor changes. Defensive, dismissive, sometimes even aggressive, because for a narcissist, criticism isn't just uncomfortable, it's an attack on their very identity. Now listen, none of us likes being criticized, it stings, that's normal. But the way a healthy person reacts to feedback versus the way a narcissist reacts, completely different stories. A grounded person might say, "That's hard to hear, but I appreciate the honesty." Or they'll at least take a beat, process it, and maybe revisit the conversation later. A narcissist, though, they can't even go there. The moment they feel exposed or wrong, They'll flip the script. Suddenly, you're the problem, you're being too sensitive, you're misunderstanding them. They will deflect, blame, project, anything to avoid accountability. That's why criticism is one of the fastest litmus tests for narcissism. And it doesn't have to be major. It can be something as small as saying, hey, I felt a little uncomfortable with that joke you made. A healthy person might pause, reflect, maybe say, I didn't mean it that way, but I get how that could come off wrong. But a narcissist, get ready for the fireworks. They'll laugh it off, gaslight you, or even retaliate by bringing up your flaws instead. It's never about growth for them. It's always about power and control. Here's what's really going on underneath that reaction. Narcissists have incredibly fragile egos. They build these grand illusions of who they are, intelligent, talented, morally superior, but it's all surface. And the moment you poke at that fuckhead, it starts to crumble. So they lash out, not because they're strong, but because they're scared. Deep down, they can't handle the reality that they might not be perfect. So they protect that illusion with everything they've got, including turning on the very people closest to them. This is where it gets dangerous in relationships. Whether personal or professional, you find yourself walking on eggshells, you start editing your words, you avoid bringing up concerns or offering feedback because you know it'll blow up into something bigger. That's not just frustrating, that's toxic. That's a dynamic built on fear, not respect. Now here's the twist. Sometimes narcissists pretend to take criticism well, especially early on. They'll nod, smile, even say, thank you, I'll work on that. But later, when no one's around, they punish you emotionally, withdraw affection, or bring it up in a sarcastic jab. That's their way of reasserting control while still saving face. So don't just listen to what they say in the moment. Watch how they behave afterward. That's where the truth lies. So the next time you're unsure about someone, don't get caught up in how charming or confident they seem. Watch what happens when you give them gentle, constructive feedback. That reaction will tell you everything. If they crumble, attack, or twist your words, run. Because you're not dealing with someone interested in growth. You're dealing with someone obsessed with control, and that is not a person you want to trust with your energy, your dreams, or your future. If you want to spot a narcissist in 10 seconds, pay attention to how the conversation always revolves around them. It's subtle at first, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. You walk into a room, you start sharing something, a win, a struggle, a story that matters to you, and before you can finish your sentence, they've hijacked the narrative. Suddenly, it's not about you anymore, it's about them. Their success, their pain, their perspective. Every single time, narcissists aren't just self-centered. We all have moments where we get caught up in our own world, but this is different. This is systematic. It's a pattern. They don't just dominate conversations, they control them. They redirect the focus to themselves constantly because they need to be the center of attention, and if they're not, they feel invisible, powerless, irrelevant. And a narcissist will do anything to avoid that feeling, even if it means interrupting, invalidating, or flat out ignoring you. Let me be super clear. This isn't about someone being chatty or excited. This is about someone who has no real curiosity about your experience unless it somehow reflects back on them. You talk about a stressful week. They had it worse. You just got promoted. Oh, well, they were offered 2 jobs last month, but turned them down. You're worried about something. Suddenly, they're your therapist until you say something they don't like, and now you're the villain for making everything dramatic. It's exhausting. And over time, you start to notice that your voice shrinks around them. You share less. You second guess your words. You start to wonder if your problems are even worth talking about. Because every time you try, they find a way to overshadow it. This is emotional dominance disguised as conversation. It's a control tactic dressed up as charisma. Here's the thing. Conversations are supposed to be a two-way street. A healthy person asks questions, they listen, they care. Not because they're trying to manipulate the situation, but because they genuinely want to understand you. A narcissist, they listen just long enough to find a way to make it about them again. If they show interest, it's transactional. They're calculating what they can get from you, admiration, validation, loyalty, but it's not coming from a place of mutual respect. And God forbid you call them out on it. Say something like, hey, I feel like you don't really listen when I talk about what's going on with me. And suddenly you're the one with the problem. They'll twist it. Maybe they'll gaslight you. You're being too sensitive. Or they'll deflect. I'm just trying to help. But they won't reflect. They won't take ownership. Because in their world, They are the main character, and you're just a supporting role in their story. So how do you spot this in 10 seconds? Easy. Start a conversation. Share something personal, something meaningful. Watch their eyes. Do they lean in or glaze over? Do they ask follow-up questions or cut you off? Do they give you space or steer the conversation right back to them? If it's always about them, always circling back to their drama, their brilliance, their victimhood, that's your red flag, that's your sign, and you've got a choice. You can keep feeding that ego, or you can walk away and reclaim your voice. Because real connections are built on mutual listening, not on competing monologues. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be seen. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise, not even someone who talks a big game but never really shows up for you. You want to know one of the fastest ways to spot a narcissist. Watch how they handle criticism. I'm not talking about someone getting a little defensive when they're having a rough day. I'm talking about a complete meltdown, an explosion, a manipulation spiral, the moment you even hint that something they did might not have been perfect. That's where the mask slips and the real face shows up. See, a narcissist doesn't view criticism the way healthy people do. For most of us, feedback might sting, sure, but we can usually step back and reflect, maybe even learn something. But for a narcissist, criticism is a threat. It's not a suggestion, it's an attack. It shakes their entire fragile identity because their whole self-worth is built on this illusion of perfection. And if you come near that illusion, if you so much as breathe too hard on it, you become the enemy. Let me paint you the picture. You give them honest feedback. Maybe you say, "Hey, I felt dismissed when you interrupted me in front of everyone." A normal person might say, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize I did that. Thank you for telling me." But the narcissist, brace yourself, because now it's your fault. You're too sensitive. You misunderstood them. You're creating drama, or even worse, they'll pretend to be the victim. "I guess nothing I do is ever good enough for you." Sound familiar? This isn't just defensiveness. It's a refusal to be held accountable. It's a deep-rooted fear of being exposed, because deep down, they know that the version of themselves they project isn't real. It's carefully constructed. So when you point out a crack in the wall, they panic and they will do anything to deflect, deny, and destroy the source of that threat, even if the source is someone who loves them. And here's where it gets even more twisted. Sometimes they'll flip the switch and go into guilt mode. They'll cry. They'll apologize in a way that somehow makes you feel bad for speaking up. "I'm the worst. I can't do anything right." And suddenly you're the one comforting them. The whole thing flips on its head, and that, my friend, is manipulation one-on-one. If someone cannot receive feedback without turning it into a personal attack or emotional roller coaster, that is not someone who can grow. That is not someone who can build a healthy relationship. Because relationships, real ones, require accountability. They require humility. The willingness to say, "Yeah, I messed up. I hear you. I'll do better." But a narcissist doesn't want a relationship. They want control. They want admiration. And anything that threatens that dynamic gets shut down fast. So when you're trying to figure out who someone really is, don't just watch how they act when everything's going their way. Watch what happens when you tell them something they don't want to hear. Watch how they respond when you say, "No." Watch how they handle boundaries. That's where the truth lies. That's where you find out whether you're dealing with a person who can love you or a person who just wants to use you. Because love without accountability isn't love. It's performance. And you weren't made to be someone else's audience. You were made to stand in your truth even when it makes people uncomfortable. Especially when it makes narcissists uncomfortable. So here's the truth. Once you learn to spot how a narcissist reacts to criticism, you unlock a whole new level of power. Because now, you're not second-guessing yourself. You're not falling for the guilt trips, the blame shifting, the emotional chaos. You see it for what it is.